Texans, welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Yeah, let's go. I'm so excited to see you today. How long until we have a Buc-ee's in Gaza, huh? How long? That's a joke today. I'm going to play it back for you in about a year, and then we'll be like, James, you're a prophet. But there's a ton of stuff going on, a bunch of executive orders just flying just volcanoing out of the top of the White House in the last few days. But along with these executive orders and tariff trades, let's take a look at how some of this is going to affect your money. Bill Hennessy's coming back on the show, and he's the guy that helps you save money on your healthcare costs, especially if you already have a big old hospital bill. But Bill, these tariffs, China is now retaliating, and they make a lot of our drugs. Are our drug prices about to go up?
Well, only if we accept that China gives us the full 10% tariff back at an increased price. But you know what? So many generic drugs out there are just $4 a month. So put 10 cents more on it, or 10% more, you got $4.40. So you and I are here to discuss 40 cents a month. How's that sound?
Right. Yeah, because the Tylenol is pretty cheap. Aspirin's pretty cheap. But do they make more expensive drugs that actually would hurt someone's wallet out there?
They make a lot of the generic drugs and some of the expensive drugs, but they don't make the whole drug. What they're known for in China is creating and making the active pharmaceutical ingredient.
The precursors.
They make what goes in the pill.
Yeah. I learned that from Narcos, the precursors.
Correct.
All right, so that doesn't sound too bad. Do they do a lot of manufacturing of our medical devices and machines and those things that beep next to your bed when you're in the hospital?
There are definitely components, not the whole thing, but pieces of the medical equipment, pieces of plastic and metal that are made most cheaply in China, and then they're shipped to other countries where the final medical equipment pieces are put together.
Well, you sound pretty calm and collected about all this. I mean, is there any changes y'all are doing at CGA Saves?
No, not for this. Generic drugs. That's not what's driving costs. It's the specialty expensive drugs. It's the pharmacy benefit management companies in the news that are being sued along with the drug manufacturers for illegal drug price fixing. If you want to talk about savings, get rid of the illegal drug price fixing. These very companies right here in the United States are harming us more than China when it comes to the price of drugs.
So who does make the more complex final product drugs? Is this like a Bayer Merck thing?
I'm not going to profess to be the expert on the manufacturing side, but yes, those companies will make it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the final product is actually assembled here in the United States either.
Well, do you see any other moves that are being made in D.C. that would affect the cost of drugs or medical care?
I don't. I just think this is fear-mongering from the left.
Okay.
Look, President Trump said fentanyl's killing hundreds of thousands of people, and that's true. It's more than war, and it needs to be put in the spotlight. And China, Canada, and Mexico can do more to curtail fentanyl into our country. And that's his demand. This is how he's choosing to highlight it. But if we look and say, oh, my gosh, I can't believe we're giving him a tariff. Look, I'm not your economics expert here, but the Chinese have had tariffs on the United States for decades.
Right. That the option isn't free and fair trade versus our tariffs. It's our tariffs versus this unbalanced system we got going now.
Well, they're not going to want to cut off their business to us. If they're making the active pharmaceutical ingredients, they're not going to say, you can't have them. The worst they're going to do is pass along the tariff cost of 10%, and then we're still going to get the drugs here. But again, if you're talking the most criminal drug price fixing, it's the three pharmacy benefit management companies. They're supposed to save you money, but OptumRx is owned by United. Express Scripts is owned by Cigna. Okay, there's two of them. And wait a second, that's a conflict of interest. So the insurance companies publicly traded have to have their stock share go up. And then they say they have these pharmacy benefit management companies to save money, but they don't. They purposely let the cost go up. They steal your money, and the biggest harm is right here internal to us with that strong financial conflict of interest.
So you are with Care Guide, CGASaves.com. Is it more important to tap into a consultant like you guys before you get care or after you get care?
I love it when we get called before we get care. We do have services that help tell you where to go and what to pay. We take the surprise out of a bill. My other saying is you never overpay for care because we know the price of care. You can feel good about your price tag if you go through us. But afterward, we're pretty darn good at beating up those hospital bills with all those illegal shenanigans that are in them and all that price hiding and violations of the Federal Trade Commission Section 5, having participated in unfair and deceptive act of commerce, and I can go on and on.
Yeah, the price hiding stuff. Is there anything in the platform of the new administration that's going to address some of that?
I
hadn't heard anything
new coming down the pike. However, what the Trump MO is enforce. There's enough laws on the books. If we would just enforce them, we'd have a strong southern border. We've heard him say that many a time. And so similarly, there are already federal price transparency laws. They're not being enforced. So a guy like RFK heading up the Health and Human Services, known as HHS, if he chose to enforce them, the laws are already there. We just got to start putting real penalties and fines to these wrongs so that everybody knows the price of care and it's a fair price before we get it.
Good stuff. Thank you, Dr. Bill Hennessy. CGASaves.com is his website. If you need help with your medical bills, this is the guy you call. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
All right, Dr. Bill, not too worried about it. Well, good, because that's not what a lot of the headlines you're going to see scrolling through your social media feed today say. Coming up next, what do you think about the idea of the U.S. taking over Gaza? I kind of like that idea. You know how quick we build suburbs around here? We could just put in like an IKEA and a Buc-ee's and, you know, what else we need? Like a Best Buy, a couple strip malls, maybe some donut shops, a couple nail spas. We'll fix that thing right up. We can maybe just move the Mavericks over there, too. If they're not worried about, you know, bringing another championship here, maybe you can go ahead and move the Mavericks over there. Then you can build your big, awesome casino, because I know that's what you really want to do, and I don't blame you for it because you're going to make billions. But the thoughts, your thoughts on the United States taking over Gaza, is just a wild fantasy? Is this geopolitical brilliance? What do you think? Or is this the dumbest thing you've ever heard? 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. I want to hear your thoughts, and you'll hear mine next on The James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, sports fans. James Parker here for the Prize Picks app. We got the big game this weekend, and Prize Picks has some promotions for you to help you get a little more enjoyment out of the game you're already going to be watching. Number one, when I tell you you have to make a lineup of 2 to 6 players, well, if one of them is going to be a free pick, really all you have to do is be correct on one of your other predictions, and you win. So the free square for the big game is going to be Patrick Mahomes. His statistic is 0.5 yards. So if he throws for 1 yard, boom, you already have a square. So go ahead. You're going to be watching the game. Look at the other statistics and just say, well, Saquon Barkley rushed for more than 112 yards? Will Jalen Hurts pass for more than 215 yards? Travis Kelce, will he have less than 62 yards? That's all you got to do. Just pick more or less, put together a lineup, and boom, win some real money. You can start by using the promo code WBAP. When you download the Prize Picks app, use promo code WBAP, and with your first $5 play, you get $50. That's right, $50 that you can play with your first $5 play. If you remember the promo code that's this radio station's name, WBAP. And then when we're done with the big game, you can use Prize Picks to go pick against the Mavericks, whoever they're playing. Just pick them to choose. They're going to get 140 something points. We'll just have fun with everything that you're already watching. Prize Picks, run your game. Well, hey there. Welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. But it's not going to be a dull 4 years. I can tell you that. The next 4 years, you're just going to have to keep your head on a swivel. It's like watching a tennis game, just going back and forth and back and forth. Because here it comes. It's like, are we getting rid of the Department of Education? Are we getting rid of the Department of Labor? Elon Musk has the keys to the castle. Now we're going to annex Gaza. Now we have a Trump tariff war with Mexico. And now Canada is going to send troops to the border. Now China's 50% tariff. There's so much going on in just the last 24 hours since the last time I did a James Show. I could do like 10 shows on just what's happened since the James Show finished yesterday. The next one we're going to talk about, don't worry, we'll get to all this eventually on the James Show. But I love this one right here. I like the idea of owning Gaza. I didn't think of this before.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site and get rid of the destroyed buildings, level it out, create an economic development that will supply unlimited numbers of jobs and housing for the people of the area. Do a real job, do something different. Just can't go back. If you go back, it's going to end up the same way it has for 100 years.
Yeah, and I've always thought there's something missing from the options that were laid on the table whenever it comes to the conflict there in Israel and the Palestinians, Gaza, West Bank, all that fun stuff. Because, the question is, well, should this area be controlled by the Arabs? Should this area be controlled by the Jews? And I've always thought, Christians? Excuse me. And it's not that I want to go genocide out the whole place. We could just rebuild Gaza, let them see what life would be like here from the Christian world, and just convert them. That's how you win them over without having to have bloodshed or whatever. And if we rebuilt Gaza, they would probably convert within like 10 years. Because, and I don't mean we as in Americans, I mean we as in specifically Texans. Texans need to rebuild Gaza. Number one, we can just spit out suburbs like it's nothing. Like we just came up with Frisco in like 8 years. There was nothing there. There's a couple of cow pastures and a grain silo. And then all of a sudden, Stonebriar Mall. And here's some corporate headquarters. Here's a giant football stadium. And here's 30,000 single houses. It was fantastic. We do that here. We can do that like in Austin where just Georgetown and Round Rock. These are all sudden towns now. And when you go to look at Houston, they just keep stacking on suburbs over there. Here's the Woodlands. Here's Conroe. Here's the Katie's now giant. So we could just take that like blueprint because all those suburbs kind of look alike, and we'll just build it there in Gaza. Because, look, how about number one? Gaza would be a lot better if it had a Buc-ee's. Can we all agree with that? But listen, maybe I should explain my Texan position first here. Because one thing dawned on me long time ago. My job, when I finally first got my first radio job, I was working at the mall. I was working at a vitamin shop, and one of the stores I worked at was in Valley View. And the guy across the store from me, he was a Palestinian. He's a Palestinian Muslim. His family had come here when his parents were younger. And he was raised in Florida, but his dad had a store upstairs called Milano. He ran Zillies. His name's Cleo. And it finally dawned on me, hanging out with him and his family and going to restaurants and stuff, how we are so alike, us and the Palestinian, the Muslims, Arabs, Christians, whatever your religion is. We have a whole lot in common, and more so with other American subgroups. Because I love guns. Texans love guns. You know what? My Arab friends, they all love guns. Yeah, we love that stuff, right? I mean, you can see them on TV. Guns play heavily in that. But some guy who's wearing like the tie-dyed shirt from Colorado Springs, probably not as into guns as me and you and our new Arab friends here. We have more in common with them than with like a David Hogg. But think about this. They love drilling for oil. We love drilling for oil. Ooh, you love oil? You mean you're not worried about the climate, or you're not worried about fossil fuels, or we should have paper straws? See, we agree with the Arabs on that. More so than the purple-haired college professor from Berkeley, right? We like to drive around in big flashy cars. They like to drive around in big flashy cars. Not a Prius. You ever seen a sheik in a Prius? You ever seen a sheik in one of the, like a tiny little Ford Focus? Gets good gas mileage. You ever seen a sheik on an electric scooter? Of course not. We're pretty serious about religion. So are they. Well, I mean, it's not the same religion in many cases. But we're not like those atheist weirdos that are like, oh, there's no God. This all just came from nothing. There was nothing, and then nothing happened, and then there was everything, but there's definitely nothing outside of this. So we have more in common with them when it comes to religion, when it comes to cars, when it comes to oil, when it comes to guns. We're also more manly than your average Berkeley student. And we both agree, Texans and our Arab friends, that Europeans are kind of sissies, right? They're sort of like effeminate. Like they wear Speedos and tight jeans a lot. And I don't know, they're kind of suspicious to us. So yeah, if we take over Gaza, Texans should be the first in line to rebuild it. We'll give them a Buc-ee's. They could probably use an IKEA. You know, a bunch of their couches and furniture got blowed up, so we could do that. They definitely need like a Home Depot. They could use some building materials. But really, I mean, just think about all the stuff we have here. Just transplant it over there. Best Buy, probably, you know, it's about the size of Dallas County and Collin County put together. So they're probably going to need about $280 generals. But you know, let's just kind of start infusing our culture in there. Give them like a Uncle Julio's or an El Phoenix or something like that. And grocery store, I think, would be super important. I vote Brookshire's because that's like the Christian version of the communist HEB, Brookshire's. And I don't know, maybe Kroger or Tom Thumb. I like those too. But just build one of our suburbs over there and watch them. How could they hate us after that? How could they hate us after seeing the wall of jerky at Buc-ee's? I don't think they can. What do you think of the U.S. taking over Gaza? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. The big game is this weekend. Saw a report that some of the commercials are going to be different than what we're used to. There's going to be a focus on health. Well, that doesn't sound very fun. Scott Baradell from Idea Grove, he's a marketing public relations expert. Scott, I mean, is this just what's cool now, pretending to be healthy?
I guess so. I mean, there have been some trends in terms of viewership and in terms of people's habits. Gen Z, representing more viewers, are more into health, according to data. We'll see if that lasts, but at least in terms of where they are now, they're more into health than previous generations. And women are becoming a bigger and bigger part of Super Bowl viewership. It was 48% last year, women. The biggest ever. Should be higher this year, and it's expected that pretty soon will actually be more female than male viewers of the Super Bowl. So all of those are going into the trends that are kind of changing the kind of ads we see.
So I find a little conflict here because on one hand, one of the trends is health. On the other hand, another trend is body positivity, which I don't want to say is the opposite of health, but it seems sort of indifferent to health. That's a weird cultural balance beam they're walking down.
Oh, man, you are so right about that one. That's one of the biggest ones because, yes, Dove has a 30-second spot this year on body confidence, body positivity, and specifically that girls in, say, high school might not participate in sports because they're too self-conscious about their bodies and encouraging them to have confidence and to go out there and compete. So, yes. And then on the other hand, there's going to be a commercial from Hims and Hers, which you may have seen of this brand of healthcare brand. They're running their first ad this year, and it's going to be all about the obesity crisis.
I don't know Hims and Hers. What I feel like I should know that the way you said it.
There are prescription products as well as grooming and personal hygiene products. It's a online business that's become it's all over social media. I don't know, maybe I'm just somehow fell into the target, but I'm seeing these ads all the time. For things like, hair growth to take your pick. That's Hims and Hers. Well,
we're still doing fast food and beer, right?
Yes, there's still going to be a good
amen to that. Yeah,
a good amount of fast food and beer ads. There's going to be, I guess, Little Caesars. There's going to be Dunkin' Donuts. I mean, so it's not like they won't be represented. But in addition to the beer ads from like Michelob Ultra, there's also going to be ads from first ever, I believe, ad from Liquid Death. That they do the canned water.
The water, yeah.
Yeah. And so that's kind of an alternative. The idea is that these can look like a beer can or an energy drink. And so if you're being healthy and drinking water and at a party, you don't want to, you don't have to deal with people saying, hey, go get a drink.
Well, I also, I like the sparkling Liquid Death rather than the flat Liquid Death because the flat Liquid Death is just water. And I don't know how people do it. In fact, I tried to be a little more healthy today. I was drinking water earlier while I was preparing for work, and I was like, this is terrible. Someone give me a Gatorade or something. This is just god-awful. So I feel like a lot of this is posturing, though. There's a lot of people who like to put on airs that they're health conscious and healthy and, wearing workout pants when they, how many of the ladies wearing yoga pants actually did yoga today? Probably like 4 of them. So I feel like this is really trendy more so than lifestyle changes that are happening.
Well, that's a good point. Now, it is true that for the first time in a decade, obesity rates in the U.S. went down last year, but a lot of people attribute that more to Ozempic than to...
Well, look, it's been my observation that we have reached peak fat in this country, in this culture. You can only get so fat before, that you kind of reach a max, and I think we passed that.
Yeah, you can only get so fat before you have to buy 2 plane tickets to sit across the middle.
Well, you can only get so fat before your society learns how to deal with, for all of human history until 50 years ago, you didn't have a problem with an overabundance of calories. The problem humanity faced was famine before that. So this is just a problem, a luxury of affluence, and I think we're actually learning how to deal with it. But the Super Bowl, they're not going all too feminine on us, are they?
No, I think it's a good balance. I think it'll be nice. You got a balanced audience. I think you're going to have a balanced bunch of ads. I guess maybe this is more women, but I think one of the ads a lot of people are talking about is the reunion of Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan to reenact the big fake O.
Oh, I didn't know that was coming up.
Yes, that's from Hellman's Mayonnaise. It's going to be. And no, I'm sure there's a joke in there somewhere, but I'm going to say it.
No, there's no joke there. I have no idea what you're talking about. There's no way that could be misconstrued. How much of this is Taylor Swift? Is a bunch of this female audience going to go away if Taylor Swift's not there next year?
Well, as someone who's not a Chiefs fan, I wouldn't mind the Chiefs not being in the Super Bowl every year. But as long as they are, I think Taylor Swift is a factor. It's hard to say how big a factor, but she adds a celebrity element. It's just like these ads. I mentioned Meg Ryan, Billy Crystal. There's going to be Shania Twain, Chris Hemsworth, Ben Affleck. Take your pick. Matthew McConaughey. These are all folks in Super Bowl ads this year.
All right. Scott Bairdell, Idea Grove, thank you very much for your insight on PR and marketing. Appreciate it, sir.
Thank you.
Find him at Idea Grove online. Coming up next, your thoughts on the United States taking over Gaza. I just think we can't build a strip mall there fast enough. What do you think? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. So Trump floats the idea of the United States taking over Gaza, doing a rebuilding effort and moving them back in. Immediately, just dumb questions keep flying out like, oh, well, there's the 1.8 million Palestinians. What are you going to do with them in the meantime while the whole place is under construction? Excuse me, Greenland? Andrew in Farmers Branch. If you want to be after Andrew, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Hey, Andrew, what's your thoughts on U.S. taking over Gaza?
Okay, so the United States spent trillions of dollars, and we've had thousands of casualties trying to turn Afghanistan and Iraq into Indiana, which completely failed because, number one, their constitutions are the Quran and Islam. And number two, those countries still don't recognize Israel, and no one with an Israeli passport can enter those countries. And if you go to the wiki page for the Iraqi Constitution of 2006, it says, quote, Islam is the state religion and the basic foundation of the country's laws, and no law may contradict Islam. So the United States should not put one penny into Gaza until it has a secular constitution with a Bill of Rights, and it recognizes Israel.
So if they did have a secular constitution with the Bill of Rights and they recognize Israel, would you be okay with it?
That's the beginning.
Okay. Look, I think you're making some good points.
Without that, you're putting money down a rat hole, and which
we've seen.
Do you want to be killed first?
Right.
Who wants to be killed first?
So I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just going to give you a couple of points of pushback on that. Now, Iraq is not great. It's not the liberal Western democracy, and I'm using the lowercase L, not the American connotation, but the statecraft connotation. A liberal democracy, which they didn't have before, and granted, their constitution does have a religious base to it. They're not invading their neighbors. They didn't invade Iran like they did under Saddam Hussein or Kuwait under Saddam Hussein. They're no longer a state sponsor of terrorism, and they're not oppressing the Kurds in the north. They're better. They're not great. They're not Indiana. Sure. But I don't think all that was wasted. All the time and effort that we spent in Iraq was necessarily wasted. Now, Afghanistan, a little bit worse. The best we're getting out of them is they're still living in what looks like the Old Testament with AKs thrown in there, but they're not. They don't have Al-Qaeda training camps. They're not launching terror attacks on the United States. We haven't had one plane hijacked since 9/11, and then before that, they tried to blow up the World Trade Center with what was that, like a U-Haul van or something, a bomb in it. And that's kind of stopped. So it's gotten a little better in Afghanistan. I would say it's gotten a lot better in Iraq. But the ideal that I think, historians look at is like South Korea. Look what happened there. That intervention and that civil war. We have a country with, they went through a ugly military junta period. But other than that, they've been sort of a liberal democracy with the full complement of human rights.
And they have a secular constitution with a Bill of Rights.
Yes.
You can invest money in there without it disappearing.
Right.
But
we're back in agreement here. So there's scales. Like, not all of our interventions are doomed to failure. Some of them have been wildly successful. I mean, we were threatening to wipe Japan off of existence, 80 years ago, and then here we are, best buddies with them.
With a Bill of Rights.
You're making great points. Yeah. So I like your sticking point there.
One point of interest that I kind of found on the internet in the last year, that the Palestinians they don't originate from the Middle East. They're actually, during the Roman Empire, they were immigrated from Greece. They were called the boat people. So during the Roman Empire, they all migrated to that area during the Roman Empire. And I've got a Greek friend. I told him that. It's like, you got a good point, because they look Greek to me too. So who owns the land? I don't know. They're basically Greek people is what they are.
Well, where do you set that clock back? Because if we set the clock back that far, can the Christians take Anatolia back? Can we get Constantinople back? If we talk about who is and isn't native to lands, that's a super dangerous game to play. But I like your sticking point: secular constitution, Bill of Rights, recognize Israel. I kind of also like the idea of taking it over, and then this will just be a new province of Israel, because Israel's not throwing people off buildings, and they're coming up with Nobel Prize winners, and it's like the only place in the Middle East that doesn't have oil, and they're more prosperous than the rest of them. It's the damnedest thing. But I like your points. Good stuff, Andrew. Appreciate it.
All right.
That's Andrew in Farmers Branch adding to the conversation. He gets 6 points. You know what? I'm glad you asked. He does deserve points for that. Your thoughts, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. And look, if you want to get specific like Andrew, I thought that was great. Now, I saw some jokes, someone sitting on Facebook, can we send the Mavericks over there, huh? I already said that. Didn't I say that in the first segment, or did I say that before the show? I said that on the show, didn't I? Okay, because I made the joke to Bruce earlier. Because they still had the guy that has to guard the Dirk Nowitzki statue out here. We're at the American Airlines Center where we broadcast from. And they've had some poor dude, I said the lady yesterday, some dude with a folding chair just watching it so that someone doesn't spray paint the base again. You children. Goodness gracious. But yeah, let's rebuild it. Let's put in a Buc-ee's, an IKEA, a Best Buy, an Uncle Julio's, some Brookshire's in there. Let's just turn it into like Diet America. And how could they hate us after that? I've always thought if we just gave them free cable, like if we let the Ayatollahs have a Netflix account and like a wide open DirecTV account with all 700 channels, they'd be like, you know what, this whole American experience, that doesn't look too bad. Have you seen this Scarlett Johansson lady? Maybe we were too hard on our Christian brothers over there. I'd like to see what they do with the Top Golf. You know what else? Let's not all just make it our wish list. Let's just go ahead and put some stuff that you don't like in there just to make a point. Let's see how well a Planned Parenthood flies in the Gaza Strip. See how much they love that one. Let's do let's do an LGBT parade for them. You think they'll love that? Oh, that'd be hilarious. They probably will like some cupcake shops though. Also, when he talks about the place being destroyed, I was thinking to myself, this is the ultimate fixer-upper. Wait a minute. Fixer-upper? We could send Chip and Joanna over there. This will be the new season of Fixer-upper. Did they get divorced? Are they still together? Because they could fix that thing right up. There'd just be shiplap all over the place, and we're going to knock out this wall, and we're just going to open up all this space in here and make it livable, and, just so the traffic flows, and, we got to get rid of this wood paneling over here. And, oh, my God, does this mosque have popcorn ceilings? Oh, this is so gross. It would be a whole new season. It'd be fantastic. It could be HGTV, but the G stands for Gaza. See what I did there? Dude, we're just solving problems. All the world's problems are getting solved on today's show. We'll just finish this, and I don't know what we're going to do on tomorrow's show. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Luke Bryan coming to Dos Equis Pavilion June 20th. It's one of the contests we have going on right now. If you want to win some Luke Bryan tickets, text the word SONG to 800-288-9227. And that won't guarantee your tickets, but you will be entered in the contest. And we're going to give them to somebody who texts the word SONG to 800-288-9227. Coming up next, Chris Putnam from the Dallas Express on what he saw at the illegal immigration protest this weekend. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. I know, let's go. My next guest comes from the DallasExpress.com. Dallas Express is a website that takes DFW news and really Texas news that falls through the cracks, gets ignored by the legacy media, often because it doesn't fit the narrative. But when we talk about new alternative platforms are giving a voice that used to be silenced, this is what we're talking about. Chris Putnam, welcome back on from the Dallas Express, sir.
Thanks, James. Great to be back.
Well, first things first, you guys did some great coverage of the protests that happened over the weekend. I was told there's another round of protests that's supposed to be today. It was the 50-51 protest where 50 states, 50 state capitals, all on one day. And I haven't really heard anything about it. Do you guys have someone in Austin watching that, or?
We do. We've had reporters embedded in most of the protests so far. As you know, like when we talked, I think about a week ago, one was kind of outed actually at the Fort Worth protest and ended up just asking questions to the crowd. Yeah, so we'll have somebody down there. It's really interesting. What we're really focused on right now is digging into who exactly, is organizing and funding these protests. And we have a pretty good idea, but we're trying to get some, facts behind it before we publish an article.
Well, see, this has always been the sneaky thing about protest is they can take what is an extreme minority position, flaunt it in the streets, get all kinds of flowery, sympathetic news coverage, and make the average person think that this is a widely held belief. And never has that been more wrong in Texas. We just had the Hispanic vote go towards Team Red, so more than half of them clearly disagree with the protesters.
55%.
Yeah, and
55%.
And then for the 45% that are left, some of them are apathetic or indifferent or don't have a strong enough opinion. What we see in the streets is really becoming a fringe minority view.
Look, it's purposeful. It's organized. By the way, it ties directly to what you're seeing in the news in the last couple of days with respect to U.S. aid. I'm sure you're familiar with that. U.S. aid funds a lot of the NGOs that take huge amounts of money from our taxpayers. Catholic Charities is an example, and a lot of them are pro-immigration. And they literally have participated in trafficking a lot of people from South Central America and Mexico to the United States, and their money is dried up. So I always tell people, it's like, follow the money, and you'll understand like what the source of, the organization and funding of these things it actually looks like. To your point, it is not a reflection of the majority of the electorate. We know what that looks like now.
Yeah, and I like your focus on the organizational aspect of it. I remember 10 years ago, I was doing a morning show in Waco, and they had this group called Prosper Waco, and they kept showing up at city council meetings, and they're all wearing the same T-shirt, and they all match, and they're all reading from the same script, and they're just taking up all the public comments time, and they're acting like it was some grassroots organization. You do a couple Google searches, and you find out, well, there's a Prosper Kansas City, there's a Prosper Abilene, there's a Prosper Laredo, there's a Prosper Colorado Springs, and so this wasn't a grassroots organization. This was very much some well-funded top-down template that local activists were signing on to. And I think that's exactly what we're seeing with these protests. And really, who is paying for all this?
So this is the point. We are.
Oh.
That's the point. It's, by the way, it's completely analogous. I mean, it's not in dispute at this point that U.S. aid was, I think the number is $40 million that got directly contributed to the lab in Wuhan to do gain function research. They covered it up. We're doing this to ourselves with our own taxpayer money. And that's why the Trump administration literally chose U.S. aid as the very first department to go after hard and to gut, because it's literally the heart of the deep state. And so, again, think about it this way. You have all of these NGOs that are immigration focused, like Catholic Charities. They have been receiving money, huge amounts of money, for years now from USAID, from our taxpayers. That money is now gone. It's over.
Well, hang on.
So,
How come we don't have? How come it all goes one direction? We don't have some NGOs that are getting taxpayer money that are running around talking about gun rights and trying to expand the Second Amendment. How come all of these go for Team Blue?
because like every other, bureaucracy in this country, they were absolutely politicized. Over the course of, let's say, the last 12 years, as we know, like the Trump's first administration was completely distracted by Russiagate. He didn't know what he was doing at first. He, actually ended up, putting people in his cabinet that were not the right people for, what he was trying to accomplish in terms of reform. And so they've had 12 years, basically to do whatever they wanted. And some of our most trusted your bureaucracies have been hopelessly politicized. The IRS is another example. We know DOD is another example. DOJ is certainly an example, and the FBI. That's what's happened here. And to me, this is like the biggest story, not just like of this year, but, maybe of a generation, because there is a revolution going on right now inside the federal bureaucracy. Maybe it's a civil war, not a revolution, but it's one of the two. And it's going to continue to be very interesting to watch. But these protests are literally just they're an adjunct reaction to all of that's going on. Again, follow the money. All of these NGOs that have been getting tens of millions of dollars to support immigration in whatever form, to promote it, basically.
Right.
Their money's cut off. And so what do you think they're going to do?
All right. I've got another question, but I'm out of time. Can you hang on for 4 minutes?
Sure.
All right, because there's a local independent school district here in the DFW area that has 20 sexual abuse cases with the perpetrators unnamed. This just came out on DallasExpress.com earlier today. You'll hear about it from Chris Putnam, CEO of Dallas Express, coming up next on The James Show. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. You really wanna be with. What song is it? He Loves Me Not? Who sings this? You know this, don't you, Garrett? Dream. All right, you just lost 4 points there, Eric. I'm playing. There's no point lost there. You don't gain any points for that one, though. Hey, welcome to the James Show. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Oh, yeah. That was, weren't they from, like, Making the Band or whatever? Anyway. Chris Putnam is continuing with this, DallasExpress.com. They break a bunch of DFW news and Texas news, a lot of which falls through the cracks of the legacy media outlets. So we always love having them on to talk about the stories that you might have missed. Also, want to just awkwardly invite him. Hey, Brian Kilmeade is coming to the community beer up here, like Commonwealth and 35 on February 26th. Now, it's a party for our sister station, KLIF. But, Chris, you should come out. Say hi. I'll be there.
No, that would be fantastic. We actually do a lot of Dallas Express branded events at that exact same venue. It's a fantastic venue.
How long has it been community beer? Wasn't it like a theater or something?
I actually don't know what was there before.
Yeah, it was like a Costco or something big there. Anyway,
Costco maybe.
All right, so let's talk about this. This is the kind of stuff I love from Dallas Express. Y'all have a story that I haven't seen anywhere else. Fort Worth ISD has over 20 alleged sexual abuse cases still open here, and all of these didn't make it into the news. So, is the sexual abuse problem at our local schools worse than we thought? This tells me yes.
Oh, no. So let's be clear. We have a sexual abuse of children epidemic in our Texas public schools. We're actually doing a series right now on it. This article is part of that looks at the problem holistically. What you get, from the media at times, the legacy media is they'll report on this, if somebody gets actually arrested, there's this case or this case or this case, and you see all the cases kind of individually, but nobody's actually examined, the problem holistically. And so that's what we're in the process of doing with this series. And yeah, Fort Worth ISD, as you know, is very challenged in a lot of ways. Academically, it's one of the poorest performing in the entire state. The city leaders, that aren't necessarily affiliated with the school district, have literally called for reform of that district as a result. And you and I just, I think a week ago or 2 weeks ago, talked about, the situation with, the educator that basically raised the flag about how many illegals.
Yeah, the substitute teacher lost his job for saying that he had to communicate with 40% of his students through a translator app.
Yeah, and so Fort Worth ISD has all these challenges, and it literally impacts the city's ability to recruit white-collar, high-paying tech and finance jobs to the city. That's why they end up in the suburbs or even in Dallas, which has, close proximity to the park cities in good schools. I mean, because you can't tell an employer, hey, come to Fort Worth, and you can either go into some of the worst schools in the state of Texas, or you're going to pay $20,000 a kid for private school. And this is just another example. But again, the epidemic of, child abuse or child sexual exploitation in our public schools is really a huge story. And of course, as you noted, 20 documented abuse cases in Fort Worth alone.
Yeah, so who's been doing a lot of good work on that? They have the Bad Apple series on TexasScorecard.com. You may want to cross-reference your notes with them because...
Yep, we do.
Oh, good, because... by
the way, they did a story recently on the number of felons, like convicted felons, that are actually, educating our children.
Wow. Oh, I didn't see that one. You were pointing out here on DallasExpress.com, Chris, that out of these 20 cases that you guys looked at that are still open from Fort Worth ISD, only 2 of the perpetrators are on the do not hire registry. I think that's a huge problem too. Everything I read about the story makes it a little bit worse, Chris.
Well, it's not only that, they won't talk about it. As you probably also noted in the story, they will not provide a comment. And, said that the source of information contained in the document came from a third party. Therefore, they were unable to answer questions about it. It's just ridiculous.
Well, when we go back and actually get to the bottom of some of these records, Are a lot of these like false accusations or things that can't be proven, and so maybe that 20 number is a little hyperbole when you get to the truth of it, or are most of these legit?
I mean, we've seen no evidence of that. You know, again, without having the data in front of me, I can't tell you the exact number, but we've seen no evidence of that. I mean, a lot of them seem to be totally credible.
Okay. Chris Putnam, what do you guys got coming out on the Dallas Express that we hadn't seen anywhere else?
We're really focused again, on. I just think that the biggest story in the country right now, and the biggest story in years, is what we're now learning about the waste and corruption and abuse of our taxpayer dollars through U.S. aid into these NGOs. And you're going to see the Trump administration going at it in an incredibly hard way, with the folks on the left, and they're going to fight back because that has been the tool that they have used to control the media. That money has flown to. There's actually, to your point, like there's a story right now. We're just literally getting confirmation on it because it's floating out there in the social media universe that Politico has basically can't make payroll. And the allegation is because the U.S. aid funds were cut off. So those U.S. aid funds were funding, journalists that, took one perspective, the perspective of the left, and we're weaponizing that against Republicans. And so it's just a huge story, huge. And it goes on and on and on. I mean, we're basically paying for sex changes in Venezuela, DEI musicals in Ireland, all sorts of crazy stuff.
All right, Chris Putnam, I appreciate your work on DallasExpress.com.
Thanks, James.
Good stuff. Put it in your rotation, DallasExpress.com. It's one of the sites I lean on for material for the James Show. When you wonder, where do you get all these stories? Well, this is one of the places. DallasExpress.com, TexasScorecard.com, CurrentRevolt.com. I've got all the little secrets over here. Just keep listening to the James Show. Coming up next, I have an expert on AI talking about the new DeepSeek. Will they rival NVIDIA and all the AI we got going on here? And Alibaba says they're jumping in with their new AI model. We have ourselves a good old-fashioned AI brawl coming up. Details next on the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. First things first, we had planes bumping into each other. Now, it's nothing as tragic as what happened last week when you had the helicopter hit the passenger jet. And then you had the weird medical flight that crashed in Pennsylvania over the weekend. This one plane was stopped. Another one had already landed, and it was taxiing in from the runway, I believe that's what it was. And the wing hit the tail out there. There's no explosions, no deaths, no injuries. I don't think anyone stubbed a toe. But we're all just kind of hypersensitive right now about, planes and traffic and getting it right because, this discussion that started with that first big plane crash, if this keeps happening, we're starting to look like we have some sort of systemic problem. I'll keep an eye on that as new details emerge. WBAP will be the first to get them to you. My next guest is going to help with a very complex subject that is going to be dominating the tech world for the foreseeable future. Dr. Gary Orosi is on as an AI expert. And, we had AI pop up recently, and the AI world got shocked when DeepSeek was announced as a rival to what we already had going, and now we have a new entry, Alibaba. I remember that name. What's Alibaba been up to this whole time?
Oh, well, thank you for inviting me to your show. Alibaba has just launched pretty much a competitor to DeepSeek called Qwen 2.5. These are all built on what are called open source models, just like DeepSeek was or has been built up until now.
So is Alibaba, are they looking to be an AI company and get out of their current space, or are they just adding this to their portfolio, what they already have going on?
Yeah, I think it's more a portfolio ad, and everybody's trying to build AI, James, into their applications. We see that, in Amazon and the things we buy from Amazon. We see it on Google. We see Microsoft building it into all of their, office applications. And so forth. So people are just trying to make the applications a lot smarter. If you'd asked me a couple of weeks ago when the launch of DeepSeek was announced, 16 months of development and $8 million compared to the billions, approaching $1 trillion investment that the AI companies in the U.S. have been putting in, I might have been a little concerned. Certainly Wall Street took a dump to the tune of $1 trillion of value, about 600 million of it coming out of NVIDIA. But as we learn more, it's a little bit more of a, copy and grow. So open source from Meta and their Llama product is open to pretty much anybody who wants to take the code and then build on it. So it turns out that's exactly what DeepSeek did. They did a few tuning approaches, and they did some of what they call their training on their data from the output that was coming out of OpenAI. So there's an issue there. But it's a little less concerning today. I think we're still in the lead here in America, and some of our best technologists are thinking their way through, the next level of functionality.
So that seems weird because Alibaba it sounds like a Middle Eastern company, but it's a Chinese company. And isn't DeepSeek a Chinese company? Like, why would the Chinese compete against themselves?
Well, there are actually two separate companies in China. So they're, competing. One is a platform for purchasing things, mostly started by B2B purchases. Small companies trying to sell to U.S. companies in China, and the initial start of it was Jack Ma created basically a directory that U.S. companies could use to to find business partners to make things for them over there. And again, kind of like Amazon, they've become a little more of a tech company. They've expanded into just pure technology. Amazon, as you know, offers like cloud services for data resources and that kind of stuff. So same with Alibaba. They're just trying to build on that technology. This is another race in information tech. We've been at it for, many decades now. The Chinese have been at it. The French have some a representation in the AI space with something called Mistral. It's everybody trying to kind of move in the same direction and not be left behind.
Okay. Do we expect any other AI competitors to come on the marketplace?
Well, there's 70,000 AI applications so far that are funded by venture capitalists and all kinds of people.
So we're expecting tons.
that just keeps on growing. Yeah, if you get a need, there's somebody that'll come up with a application to meet it, and that's pretty much where things are now, right? They're kind of what they call use cases. So if I have accounting issues, then I can get an AI to figure my accounting issues out, but can't write poetry for me. So that sort of thing. I think eventually these will become capable of doing a broad number of things within one platform, and that's certainly what ChatGPT is trying to do. The kind of good thing that happened, whenever you hit competition, gets everybody a little bit worried, and certainly the American companies, Google and Chat and Anthropic, who are the leaders, they've just been announcing absolutely new and more functional capability. The ability to do agents or have software do work for you is coming on very fast, and I can't see how DeepSeek and certainly Quen can keep pace with that unless they're willing to make some significant investments.
Dr. Gary Rossi, how do we find your work outside of WBAP?
Yeah, find me on GORosi@SMU.com, and I'm happy to take all questions and help anybody out I can. I thank you for the time today.
All right. Thanks for calling in all the way from SMU. Could almost walk there from here. Thank you, sir. Yeah, we're not going to be done with AI. We're going to be talking about that for a while. This is something that I have a feeling that you're going to be talking to AI when you call most businesses in about 2 years. Like this is all about to happen really quick. Coming up on the James Show, we have some more Trump executive orders to talk about and the latest updates on the two planes bumping into each other at the Seattle airport. No fatalities, no injuries, but I do have some new details to pass along. So stick with me on the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, James Parker here with Bob Lavelle of Home Marketing Services. If you're looking to get into a house, if you're looking to sell your house, or if you're looking to do both, that's what I had to do last time, sell my house and buy a new one at the same time. It gets really complicated. You call Bob, he'll make sure it happens. Bob, tell him how quickly it can happen to get someone from their old house to a new house.
We do it every day, James, but it really depends. If somebody comes in on a Wednesday, Thursday when we see clients, usually till late, they'll go out on the weekend. If they find a house that they love and want it, we'll close it in 2 weeks, 3 weeks with them. So pretty fast. If someone needs some bumps and bruises fixed on credit, and a lot of folks do because they don't know it until they actually pull a full-blown credit report, it might take 6 months to fix those things. So we'll find a builder that'll build their house. Tell me what the situation is, and we'll do it.
I think the other thing that stops a lot of people from making that first move is they have a misconception on how much money they'll have to put down. They're like, I don't have 20% or 10% to put down. But for a lot of people, maybe even most people, it doesn't take that much to get in.
You're right, and it surprises me every time I hear it. People literally said what held them back from coming in, James, is that they didn't have the 20% down. And it's like, bless their heart. It's 3.5% if they're doing an FHA loan. Our VA guys get in for a whole lot less, and most of our VA guys are moving in for under $10.
All right, if you need to get into a house and want it to be as easy as possible, you call Bob Lavelle, 972-392-9595, 972-392-9595. Talk to Bob himself, the Dallas legend, to get you into your dream home, 972-392-9595. Thanks, Bob.
Thank you, James.
Hey there, welcome to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Your thoughts on some of the Trump executive orders? My favorite one is taking over Gaza. Real close behind that, though, is the executive order that he signed for Iran, where the executive order says if Iran assassinates me, you need to obliterate them. And the media, like after he signed it, the first question is like, are you expecting to get assassinated by Iran? Well, not necessarily. I just want to throw it out there.
Why is Iran happy to sign it if it's Iran and their proxies who have threatened to retaliate against you and your team by killing you guys for taking out Soleimani?
Well, they haven't done that, and that would be a terrible thing for them to do, not because of me. If they did that, they would be obliterated. That would be the end. I've left instructions. If they do it, they get obliterated. There won't be anything left. And they shouldn't be able to do it. And Biden should have said that, but he never did. I don't know why. Lack of intelligence, perhaps.
I don't know. That's so funny because I didn't hear what caused this. And you probably didn't either. But can't we both just assume that he didn't pull this out of nowhere? Someone in Iran's government, maybe their president or one of the Ayatollahs, probably said, if anything happens or if America doesn't step down, we're gonna take out the great Satan. We'll take out Trump himself. That there's probably something that predicated this that I don't know about and you didn't know about, because this didn't come out of nowhere. Because like if your wife came home and she just says, hey, you know what? If you cheat on me, I am going to kill you. Well, where did that come from? What, did you hear something? Did you go through my phone? Was there a car in the driveway I don't know about? Like, that had to have come from somewhere. So I love that. And I really don't know if I like that one more or less than the Gaza situation, because the Gaza situation I don't even think is really going to happen. I feel like this guy is using this as a base for negotiations. And I think that because I read his book. I read one of his books. I think he has multiple ones, but I read Art of the Deal, and I read it not that long ago. I didn't read it back in the day. Someone mentioned the first time he was in office, you really should read his book. He's just following his own playbook. And sure enough, I think I read it in like 2017. And he talks about how he negotiates. And a lot of it feels like it's lifted from the old Carnegie book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, where you do a thing in a business negotiation where you set the table in an untenable fashion so both sides necessarily have to work towards a compromise or a resolution. You don't tell the Gazans, hey, you need to come up with a ceasefire with Israel or things are going to continue as they are, because they'll say, well, cool, then we'll just continue things as they are. No, you need to come up with a ceasefire against Israel, or we're just going to take over Gaza and we're going to do a bunch of dumb stuff like build a Dave & Buster's or some bike paths or something. And that'll bring them to the table. That's what this is about. So I'm not saying this is even 4D or 3D chess. This is just basic business school negotiation tactics. And it's crazy that a lot of people don't recognize that. I do like how crazy the reaction is to just about everything he says now. Check out Chris Matthews on MSNBC to the Gaza.
Well, what you and John has been saying since early this morning, I think it's the craziest idea I've ever heard in my life. 2 million people living in Gaza, a problem that Israel has, and now we're going to have. We want to own Gaza. We want to take those 2 million people and somehow lure them to go to Jordan or to Egypt. Neither of those countries want them. Imagine Jordan. It's already overwhelmed with 60% of its country are meds who come from the Palestinian areas. They don't need any more trouble. They don't need Hamas in their country. Hamas is now going to move to Egypt and to Jordan and destroy those countries. Oh, by the way, it's also going to become a new hospitality center along the Mediterranean. I mean, give me a break.
All right, and his rush to make everything Orange Man says bad. Are you just admitting that giant swaths of illegal immigrants storming over the border would crush the host nation and make it, it would damage it beyond repair? Well, hey, welcome to Team Red, Chris Matthews. You mean to tell me that taking 1 million or so people out of their home country and putting it into their neighbor's country isn't good for the neighbor's country? They wouldn't necessarily like that? Gee, that's an interesting immigration take you got there, Chris Matthews. See how just if everything that you come up with is just the opposite of what Trump says, eventually you're going to bite your own tail. Eventually you're going to have to step on your own toes here. That's awesome. I just love making them admit that you can't just have some country take on tons of illegal immigrants. I mean, that would be bad for the host country. Can you just say that again, but really slow? They'll get it one day. Updates, though. We had a Delta Airlines plane and a Japan Airlines plane bump into each other on the ground in Seattle. Now, the good news is no deaths, no injuries. I don't even think there's a fuel leak or a fire or anything. The airport has announced on social media that they've responded to the incident. It's been contained, and they didn't even have to do any big cancellations or whatnot because both of the planes were already on the ground, so it's not blocking one of the runways. There's no fire truck that's out there squirting water on anything. So things are just continuing along. And look, this is happening exactly 1 week after we saw that passenger plane bump into the Army Black Hawk helicopter, killing 67. So if we're a little sensitive about airline accidents, it's because too much of a coincidence here to have that, the Philly plane that crashed just north of Philadelphia over the weekend, and now this. We don't usually have planes bumping into each other or crashing. That is a super rare event in all of aviation, but even more hyper rare in the American sphere. So any news that comes out of that, anytime like there was the flight that got turned around on Monday, some Delta flight is carrying 158 passengers from New York to Orlando. It was diverted to Raleigh due to an odor in the cabin. Now, would they normally do that if a plane stunk so bad? I don't know. But if we're all a little hypersensitive right now, it's because plane incidents happening in rapid succession is too much of a coincidence to be a coincidence. Something going on here? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Coming up next, we'll talk to an immigration attorney about what's going on with the deportations and immigrations and the protests next on The James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Welcome back to the big show. Hey, keep it right here on WBAP. We will continue bringing you updates if there's any new details on the planes that bumped into each other at the Seattle airport. I know that's top story. There's been a whole lot of executive orders that have been flying out the window since the James Show started a couple hours ago. We'll keep you updated on those as well. And also, Brian Kilmeade's coming to town. He's going to be here later this month at Community Beer, which is Commonwealth and 35, just not too far from where I'm at right now. It's going to be on February 26th. It's a party for our sister station KLIF. So he's going to come in town. And he did this last year, too. It's really cool. It's going to be just an event where he's on stage and he'll talk a little bit. They actually recorded some stuff to be used on a podcast or maybe on his show. They replayed it later. But the cool part, the reason you want to go is he'll take questions from the audience. And people were asking him some really personal questions and some really, I don't want to say inappropriate questions. It's just be uncomfortable if it was in a more public setting. So it's a pretty cool deal. They already have some info up. Check it out, klif.com or communitybeer.com. Kate Lincoln Goldfinch is coming back on the James Show. She's an immigration attorney here in Texas. And, we had a series of protests over the last couple of weekends, and there was one that's happening in the state capitals in all 50 states, supposedly, today. Do you think that the protests are generally helping the cause or calcifying opposition to them?
Well, my guess is that the opposition doesn't care so much about the protests because, if anything, they probably are maybe a nuisance. But I was at the protest in Austin, where I live, for several hours today, and I can tell you that the people who were there felt some community, some support, some solidarity, and generally felt uplifted by just being around like-minded people. Because I think what can happen is, you just doom scroll and you see all the news and it just feels very scary and overwhelming. And then gathering with a group of people that are all sort of motivated to talk about it and fight back at least feels somewhat better.
Yeah, well, there's no doubt that there's some people who can't have their mind change on this subject either way on both sides of the aisle. But there's a whole bunch of people on the fence that I think I would recommend, if you are an immigration protester, put down the foreign flags and pick up the American flag, because you're kind of, if you don't want to have an allegiance to this country, you want to have allegiance to another country. I don't think that's going to be well received by the natives.
I think I take your point. What I can say is that, a lot of the people speaking and talking were talking about how much immigrants contribute to this country, how immigrants, they've probably built the Capitol grounds we were standing on today. And this country is awesome and great and everything that it is because of immigrants. And so it's really more around let's honor and respect and admire immigrants and their contributions to the United States. And that's what the conversation centers around.
Well, see, this is another point that I think a lot of people find abrasive, is conflating legal and illegal immigrants. There's not a widespread movement against legal immigrants. Most of the consternation and complaints are about illegal immigration, and the deportations are obviously of illegal and not legal immigrants. So when you put those two together, I feel like you're kind of talking past your opposition.
It's really interesting that you bring that up, because my perspective feels similarly about it. Feels untrue for right-wing people, Trump people, to say we are all for legal immigration, because if that is true, then why are we seeing things like the cancellation of the CBP One app and the cancellation of certain parole programs and the mechanisms where people really are doing everything they know to do to follow the right process? Those are the things that are being revoked.
Well, I can answer that, because that presupposes it's the right process. The CBP app and some of these other like little new paperwork things that came up in the last administration are just a clear workaround loophole, so these people don't have to wait in line. They don't have to go through the already established legal system. And I can't blame them. It's like, what, an 11, 13-year wait to get in from Mexico legally. And so this is just a way to get around that and cut in line through the legal immigrants who are trying to do it the right way.
I mean, not necessarily. I understand where you're coming from, but immigration is really complex. The main ways that people immigrate are through employment and family-based immigration. And just like you said, the wait times are really backlogged. But we've also granted asylum and certain parole programs in this country since after World War II. I mean, it's a 70-year-old law that we have. And so creating a system, a mechanism where people can register and submit their background check and wait for their turn is the right way to do it. And so until we see actual expansion of legal pathways that reduce the backlogs, I won't believe it when I hear people say I'm all for legal immigration, because that's not the actions that we're seeing. And I'll tell you, I mean, just it's like people are saying, oh, it's the criminals who are getting deported. I literally had to call a mother yesterday and tell her that her husband and her son weren't coming out of their check-in appointment. And she was crying because her son's going to miss his AP test. You know, someone who never has had a criminal history, like interaction with law enforcement before in his life.
Is he an illegal immigrant?
He's an asylum seeker.
Right.
And another client that did the week before that is
an asylum seeker from where?
Well, I'm not going to reveal.
What, from Mexico? See, this is the thing. If you're an asylum seeker from Mexico, that sounds like obviously you're exploiting the asylum as another loophole to not have to wait in line.
Like from Mexico?
Yes, because
that's not the way asylum works. Asylum is: have you been persecuted? Do you have a well-founded fear of persecution based on your race, your religion, your nationality, your political opinion, or your membership in a particular social group? It doesn't say, oh, if you're from Mexico, you don't qualify for asylum. That's not what the law says. That's not how Congress wrote it.
If 11 million people qualify for asylum, then the definition is too broad. And if they are so persecuted, why are they running around downtown flying Mexican flags if it's such a hellhole place that they can't live there?
Listen, somebody can have pride in their country and they can also not feel safe going back there. That's how the Venezuelans feel. And there's nothing wrong with people having pride in where they came from and also believing in the greatness of the country.
No, they should be very proud. They should also pick up an American flag. If this place is so much better that they have to jump the line in front of the poor legal immigrants who are also from Mexico but doing the right thing, I just think that's unfair to the legal immigrant community.
You're assuming that immigrants don't feel extreme pride and gratitude to
Never
this
assume
country.
that. Never assume that.
Well, then why did you say, why aren't they picking up the American flag? Of course they are. They love this country. They think it's incredible. This is the land of opportunity. But that doesn't mean that they can't also feel pride in where they came from.
Of course they can, but they're not flying American flags.
How do you know that?
Because I see them with my own eyes.
They're not flying American flags. Are you going around and talking to every single Venezuelan? Stop making sweeping arguments about communities of people when you don't know anything about them.
I didn't say zero people
fair.
flew an American flag. I'm saying from my own eyes, when I saw the protests, there were far more flags of foreign countries than American flags. And that seems counterintuitive for people who are claiming asylum.
Listen, people are protesting the treatment of the American government of people of other nations. So it's not really the kind of place where you're going to see a bunch of people celebrating the actions of America. But there were American flags there, too. I mean, there were flags from all over the place.
Martin Luther King flew the American flag, and he grew up in segregation.
I'm not saying that no one should fly the American flag. What I'm telling you is because someone is flying a flag from another country doesn't mean they don't also love this country.
Love it. This is why I like having you on. Kate Lincoln Goldfinch doesn't back down for nothing. You get credit for that. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you.
Find her at Lincoln Goldfinch Law. Lincoln Goldfinch Law. She can put up with me. She can probably help you with your case, too. I'm James Parker. Coming up next, some more sound bites from the news. You want to hear a congressional representative saying Elon Musk is not qualified? Isn't that hilarious? You'll hear it in about 4 minutes on the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. I'm starting to notice a pattern. Whenever Kate, one of your favorite immigration attorneys, come on, I have to spend the next segment or two taking calls on it. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Do y'all ever feel sorry for me and having this job? Because you shouldn't. I actually enjoy that. I'm just the pig and slop over here. 800-288-9227 if you have any comments on that. Stephen Irving, what do you think?
Man, I tell you what, that was a load of horse crap, what I just heard about the flags, okay? I mean, look, I saw American flags there. I sure did. They were on the ground being torched. They were burning them while they were waving the Mexican flag over it. Gee, sure seems a lot like Iran, and our enemies do that stuff too. The exact same thing. So I don't care if you're a lawyer like Kate or anybody else. You start burning that American flag or stomping on it and then waving your flag over it, you're a lost cause to me, and I could care less.
See, this is
what your cause is at that point.
Steve, you're exactly the type of person I was thinking about when I told her. I was actually trying to help. I was like, hey, I would recommend against flying the foreign flags and pick up some American flags. She's like, I don't know if that would be such a good idea. Well, obviously it ticks people off. Steve, you're my example. People who otherwise might be at least somewhat sympathetic, you're just pushing them away.
I can almost, okay, I really don't have a problem with them flying their flag if they're flying the American flag too, making their point. But you're burning our flag. Burning.
Right.
Okay?
Well, and didn't we also learn that a common phrase I've seen online is like, if you're at a rally and someone's flying a Nazi flag and no one stops them, then you're at a Nazi rally. Well, if you're at an immigration rally and someone's burning an American flag, you're now at a I Hate America rally. Just like if you're at a rally and they're flying Mexican flags but also Palestinian flags, you're now at a terrorist rally. Do you really want to play this game? Do you really want to apply the logic you try and force on us to your own rally? Because it doesn't make you look very good, does it, Steve?
Thank you, James. You're absolutely right. I appreciate it. I'm going to step off here because I'm going to blow a gasket, dude.
Well, you know what? Here's what you're going to like is you're not alone. You just heard Steve say, yeah, about that flag thing. They were setting it on fire. Mike also sent in on X, whatever you call it today, a tweet or whatever. He said, James Parker Show. There were American flags at the protests also on the ground and getting set on fire. I bet you if I go through my Facebook messages, there's probably one there too. The whole point of having these big rallies and they have them funded and they have them organized is to take a position that seems like a minority and have people who are just cursory keeping up with the news, just barely keeping up with current events, walk by a TV, see a big crowd, see all the people in the media agree with it and half the politicians agree with it and academics and professors and celebrities and musicians all agree with it, and they must think, oh, well, if the overwhelming majority of the people in my society agree with it, that must make sense. And so they think that you're a tiny fringe minority when actually you're far the majority. Even with Hispanics in Texas, they voted for Team Red. Even when they do the surveys on Hispanics in Texas, the majority of them support Trump's deportation plans. So, fine, don't listen to me on the flag thing. You're not making any friends. You're not helping your case. You're actually helping our case. You know what? Go have some more rallies. Just go have some more. We'll see how many flags get burnt. You would think if you're an asylum seeker, you'd be burning the flag of the country that persecuted you so bad that you had to run into the loving arms of America, but you're burning the American flag. Okay, that's not going to help your case. I mean, you can do that. It's a free country. I don't think it's illegal to burn a flag ever, but we know what's going on in your head for the people who do. All right, for my next soundbite here, there is a congresswoman from Arizona. She's not real happy about Elon Musk going through these databases and making all these cuts because he's just not qualified, y'all. He's an idiot.
I would love for Mr. Musk to come here and testify before this committee so we can understand his qualifications to do this, because last I checked, running a social media platform does not qualify you for understanding how the U.S. government works and making sure that it can operate and serve the American people.
All right, so you are just intentionally being obtuse there. He's not just some guy who runs a social media platform that doesn't qualify him to what? Go through a database? You think he doesn't know how to code? You think he has no tech experience? Do you really think, you don't think it's a little reductive that that's all he's done is run a social media platform? No, he catches rockets with giant towers. He catches them falling out of space like some sort of mecha Godzilla. He's sending one of his electric cars to Mars right now. In fact, it ought to be there in a couple of months or so. Like, he has the only profitable electric car company in the history of electric cars going back to the 1800s. All kinds of companies tried it. Oldsmobile tried it. Mercedes-Benz tried it. Studebaker tried it. And they all let it go by the mid-20th century. They've only been revived because of the billions of dollars of subsidies that's thrown at it. And even all those car companies have gone under. Do you remember them? Do you remember Smith Electric Vehicle that Obama visited when he was in office? Gave them all kinds of millions of dollars a year money. They went out of business. Lordstown went out of business. I can name about 10 others. They all go out of business. This is a guy who has made electric cars profitable. He also helped start PayPal. He also does the Boring Company. He also does the Starlink satellites that are floating over in a grid above the earth in a low orbit, providing internet to remote places. Yeah, I think he's qualified. And if he's not qualified, who is? That's one of the impossible tasks about any congressman, is we're asking them, if you expand the scope of government to be in all these industries and all these interventions, can one person, can you, Congresswoman, rando Congresswoman from Arizona, are you really an expert in education and transportation and healthcare and military and tech and all these other things that you vote on, that you control the rules for, that you control the regulations for, that you cram down the rest of our throats? Hell no, no one is. And if Elon Musk isn't qualified to do this, then who is? You? What's your background? How many rockets have you put into space? You got anything headed to Mars right now? You set up any Starlink satellites? Have you started a payment system, PayPal, that's still in use today, almost 25 years later? You made an electric car? Have you ever even made an induction motor? Have you ever even put together an erector set? Coming up next, you're going to hear from Sarah Gonzalez of The Blaze. She was also at the immigration protest this weekend, and she had a pretty hard time. She'll tell you about it next on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. I'm News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. I'm your host, James Parker. Jeff sent me a message on Facebook talking about my previous guest a couple segments ago. Said, if you have this woman on again, I will quit listening to you every afternoon. She is the enemy. Listen, I can't have everybody that's on the show someone you agree with. Here's what I can do. I can balance it out by having another lady on the show that's going to say pretty much the opposite of what you just heard from the immigration attorney. In fact, you probably heard of her before because she's on two of the platforms I love. Sarah Gonzalez from both the Blaze TV and Texas Scorecard. Welcome to the James Show, Sarah.
Hi, thanks for having me.
All right, now I've seen you on, I've seen your work on Texas Scorecard for a long time, and I've seen some of your videos pop through on the Blaze. When I saw you at the protest downtown and the videos that came from it, don't take this the wrong way. I didn't realize how short you were. You look tiny. Are you like 5'1"?
I'm 5'3", but
okay.
You're pretty close there. Yeah. Well, I wear heels all the time, so people don't realize.
You just can't tell on TV, you know. Like when I meet people in real life, I'm often surprised by that. But with your small stature, you were brave out there. You were given as good as you got. They were threatening to run over you. They were threatening to bleepity bleep your bleep, and you were just shouting back at you. Were just saying, I can't wait to see you people go. I can't wait till you leave. Go home. And the level of bravery there, I'm pretty impressed.
I appreciate that. I mean, it's time for them to go home. It's time for them to do this the right way. And I had a lot of people who told me who were there who claimed that they were there illegally. Obviously, they have no reason to lie about that, and said that they were here illegally. And they said, well, who else is going to pick your berries? And I said, well, you know what? If we really, truly can't find Americans to do those jobs, then guess what? We will be seeking out legal immigrants who can come here and do those jobs that you claim that Americans can't do. But we at least have to have law and order. And these people just did not understand that, did not get that. And yeah, I'm ready for the American taxpayer to stop paying for this level of insanity.
Well, the level of threats you got, I have a feeling that if you were on Team Blue and the threats were coming from Team Red, you would be heralded across national media as some sort of Joan of Arc icon at this point. The level of abuse that you suffered just on Sunday was pretty reprehensible.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. Someone run her over. Go walk out into traffic. And it extended into the days that followed as well, because I had several different death threats. My husband received some death threats as well. These people are really mad about those of us who are calling out, just the dangers of this open border. And I will say one other thing as well. When I tried to point out to them, hey, guys, what about the cartels? What about the human trafficking that's happening? What about the women and children who have atrocities done to them just trying to get to the border? What about that crisis? What about the fentanyl that's pouring into our borders? And none of them wanted to have a conversation about the very real dangers of this illegal immigration and open borders policies that Joe Biden, of course, perpetuated. It was really shocking to hear they wanted to hurl all of these insults and threats, but nobody seems prepared to have the conversation to address the real problems with, of course, this whole system.
Don't you get a pass because your last name's Gonzalez? They were calling you racist and bigot out there. And I was like, that certainly doesn't fit for Sarah's case.
Yeah, well, it's funny because they couldn't figure out which one they wanted to call me. They kept telling me that I was European, and then they kept saying, well, you're one of us. You're indigenous. You look indigenous. And so they weren't quite sure what to do with me. But, I just give myself the pass.
I love the duality.
I can do it.
I love the duality that's going on with all that because, Garcia, Fernandez, Hernandez, Gonzalez, these are all European names. They're all of European origin. And if you call yourself Latino, you mean Latin? You mean like from Italy, Roman? Is that what you mean? Because that's a European reference too. So it's funny how they can be indigenous when it counts and not be indigenous when it counts. And we're colonizers when we came here, but they're coming here and they're not colonizers. So it's just defies logic there.
Exactly. Well, I do tell them, Obama was only half black, and he was, of course, the first black president of the United States of America. So I can call myself whatever the heck I want with the mix that I am.
Well, I also like that you take what's essentially a national platform that you're on and a state platform, and you still focus on Dallas stuff. You're doing an event with Alan West coming up that's talking about what's going on here in Dallas, and I kind of want to go to that. Tell the people listening what's going on with your Alan West event.
Yeah, so I believe it's Thursday, February 27th, if my memory serves correctly.
That's
and
correct.
They're just okay, great. So it's that evening we are going out, and they just want to show people more about the candidates that are running. It's just so important to get involved at a local level, at a state level. I know people get really excited about President Trump and his agenda, which I am too. But we have to keep our local, municipalities and our states as red as possible. And we're not going to do that without, of course, vetting the candidates and finding out who's running, who do I want, what is their platform. I think people often forget that. So
Sarah,
I'm gonna be out there with them.
We need a Doge here in Dallas, because I just read, what was it, on Dallas News or something, that they're going to spend $4 million to study the idea of making a walking path from the Arts District through Deep Ellum to Fair Park. And not only do we not need it, we already have it. It's called sidewalks. They want to spend millions of dollars on art installations and whatnot. And I'm not even sure if anybody walks from Arts District to Fair Park. I'm not even sure if one human being has done that in the history of Dallas. Like, these are just terrible ideas. And the news, the local paper and local TV stations, they haven't found one of these dumb public works projects that they didn't like.
Yeah, no, you're right. But I think that people who live in the city of Dallas and people who live in all of these left-leaning cities, now is the time. They have seen what has happened at the federal level. They see that they're being taxed to death at these local levels. And even in a place like Dallas, I do think that you guys could make some headway if you have the right people in charge of things. So,
Right.
I mean, think about it. We are being taxed now more than ever. We've got the national Doge. Everyone's excited about it. Now's the time.
All right, Sarah Gonzalez, you can catch her on The Blaze. She's a TV host there. In fact, her show comes on at like 6 o'clock our time. And then what time?
Yes.
Yeah, 6 o'clock our time. And then also sometimes I see her on the Texas Scorecard. But you can catch her live Thursday, February 27th. Her event's going to be up in Addison with Alan West. If you need more information on that, Google it. Don't be lazy. All right, Sarah Gonzalez, thank you for being on The James Show. Appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
Give them hell at the next protest, too. I like the audio.
Well.
All right. Because she said some cuss words to him, too, and I thought that was extra brave. Like, if I said that, someone would be punching me in the jaw about now. All right, I got one segment left, and it's going to be full of just emails and Facebook messages and texts from you guys about the stuff we were already talking about. So, listener response next on The James Show. If you want to call in, 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. I just want to share with you some feedback from other listeners like yourself from earlier in the show. So we started off the show talking about Gaza and Donald Trump. If you're just joining us, that was one of the executive orders that he signed yesterday, and it's already been driving people crazy. And look, I don't know if this is just Trump setting the stage for some negotiations to make a ceasefire happen, or if he genuinely has plans to build some sort of resort on Gaza. I mean, it is like all waterfront property pretty much there. You know, it's some prime real estate. It would have been really big in the Roman Empire. Well, I guess it was big in the Roman Empire, but I was making fun thinking, well, that should be a job for Texans. We kind of mesh well with Arabs as it is. You know, we love guns and oil and religion, and we think Europeans are sissies. But jokes aside, Dylan writes in, and he says, I guess everyone else is misunderstanding, or I am. When I heard Trump talk about it, I was like, oh, yeah, 51st state on the beach. It would give us a place for a military base on U.S. soil in the region, and we could have a beach destination for all Americans where we don't need a passport to go to. We could fly into Trump International on a direct flight from DFW. He's got this all figured out, doesn't he? It would be under our federal law, and a few senators and congressmen possibly even give people land if they move there, like the old homesteaders in Alaska. It could be the new Wild Wild West in the East. I see what you did there. This clever turn of phrase. But yeah, so Dylan, if that's what he's talking about, I kind of wonder how the rest of the neighbors will feel about that. The big problem that the Arab world and the Muslim world in large has with Israel isn't necessarily the fact that they're Jewish or they're non-Muslim, or, you know, they hijack planes and fly them into buildings, or they mistreat people. It's that they have a carve out in what they expect to be Muslim territory that's non-Muslim, that's not going to convert. So if we just move ourselves there, we will be that same thorn in their side, possibly an even bigger thorn in their side. In fact, they might look at it as a step back, like, okay, now we have two thorns in our side. Now, I'm not saying necessarily that won't work. I'm saying you're pretty much picking a fight. And if we win that fight, they may just say, you know what, that's not a battle worth fighting anymore, and it may work out favorably. But I don't see the rest of the Muslim world just saying this is okay for a long period of time. Like, I don't know if they're popping off right now and we just haven't heard it, or maybe they'll just wait until Trump's out of power and we get the next human Roomba like Joe Biden in there before they jump. But I'm not sure if that's the long game that they're playing on this one. It might be. That you can hear the doubt in my voice, I bet. Also, I had some feedback over here on the Facebook. By the way, if you want to email me, james@wbap.com. It's no big secret there. We had Rick saying, Bongino has it right. Trump is telling all the players in the Gaza mess that what they have been doing is not working and they need to figure it out and do it now. If we have to do it, no one will like it. Hello, Jordan and Egypt. And so I responded, yes, of course, I don't really think we were putting a Buc-ee's in Gaza. And then he added, actually, we could if we had to. So, okay. I like the sound of that. Yeah, you know, I really like the sound of the friendship, you know, the extending of an olive branch, just pointing out that we're not that different. You like guns and oil and religion? Well, so do we. You're half Texan as it is. And if they could see like our movies, our music, if they could hear the James Show, and if they didn't have everything coming from the West filtered through, you know, the translation or their government or their censorship or their preferred, you know, media channels that are heavily censored and controlled, it'd be hard for them to not like us on a long enough time scale. And I feel like we could win these people over. And, you know, the Buc-ee's is only half a joke. If they saw what life was like, if we accepted the Western way of life, you know, what do we get? We get this awesome, this is a gas station? Well, this is pretty amazing. What is this food over here? What do you call this in English? Whataburger? Well, damn, I like that too. And then they would start, you know, maybe opening up to other aspects of our culture, and I think they would like it. And they'd be like, hang on now. I know we say we want women in like headscarves and fully dressed and looking like the Imperial Guards in Return to the Jedi, but I kind of like this bikini action you guys got going too. You mean we could have like regular women and wearing bikinis? Oh man, they would really struggle to not become westernized because our life is pretty awesome. Lainey Wilson fans, she's coming to Dickies Arena September 19th. For tickets and information, go to livenation.com. But for the rest of this week, if you listen to the WBAP morning show, my friends over there, when you're waking up on your way to work, they're going to be giving away tickets tomorrow and the next day. So maybe you can win a pair of tickets from our buddies here at WBAP. Also want to remind you, our buddies over at KLIF, they got Brian Kilmeade coming to town. He just joined the KLIF lineup last year. Did an appearance and liked it so much that he's going to be coming back. So look for more information on that. And it's not just him. I'll be there too. But he'll be February 26th at Community Beer. Thank you very much for hanging out. Mark Levin's coming up next. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.